Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Outfits. In this episode, we are in the Pilbara region and we go exploring around Karratha.
Then we do some awesome rock crawling to some deserted, incredible beaches in the area. I attempt to go spearfishing, but things don't always work out as well as they should. Stay tuned.
We have just left Karratha and now we're going to explore the Burrup Peninsula. Can't wait to see that side. So we've just dropped our pressure, engaged for a drive, and we're ready for some adventures.
Yes! Okay, so we're about to do a bit of a famous local track called the Jump Up. Unfortunately, we've got to go through some mangroves first, which I absolutely hate driving through salt water if I don't have to, because there's no car washes in these parts. So it's, yeah, whatever salt gets on the car kind of stays there at the moment, which I hate. But anyway, it's a big rock crawl. I think we'll be absolutely fine. There's one big rock that can give people some panel damage if they slide into it. So rather than going around it, I'm just going to attempt to drive straight over the top of it, and then that removes that hazard. So through the water and then up the rocks. I'm going to put the GoPro on the bonnet. We'll see how we go. All right, done and dusted. So I engaged front and rear lockers just because they never ever get used, and I really didn't want any wheel slippage that would pull the car into the rocks on the side. But that was a piece of cake. And just turned to drive. Just cruising along.
It's such a cool place. It's like rock crawling to like lots of little nook and little beach and coves and mangrove and rocks.
How's this for a campsite? Really neat. All this volcanic rock. Completely sheltered from the wind here. And then we've got the sea right there. So this is actually a channel that's coming straight through. And I've heard the water can just rip through here. So what I might do is jump in here and go for a drift spear and end up way down, and then I'll walk back. That is the plan. The water clarity looks okay, and I got a tip that potentially there's some bommies there that might hold some blue bone. So hopefully I can get a fish for tonight and cook it up on the fire. That's the dream. That is today's dream.
So what's happening?
So Went spearfishing. The current was really strong and kind of murky, but there were lots of blue bone. So, but they were quite small, so I didn't shoot any of them. So I was going to come out and go back out when it's high tide, because the current's just ripping through there at the moment as the tide goes up. But when I was getting out, because it was super shallow, I couldn't swim to shore. So a large part of it I had to walk. I didn't want to walk backwards with my fins on. So I went barefoot, and I must have stood in a really small piece of coral, but it's just gone straight into my heel. So I've just spent the last 20 minutes with Ange trying to dig it all out, but there's still some really deep, but it's hurting so much with the needle that I'm just going to see if I can soak it first. It was Ange's idea. See if we can soften up the skin. It might make it fall out a bit easier. We'll see.
So we ended up putting like a bandage on Chris' foot. It's a bit gutted. Obviously was really hoping to go spearfishing a lot more. So like, yeah, obviously he's not really happy. So I'm going to try to save the day and bring the morale up and build a little like fire ring. We'll have a little fire tonight. We'll try to cook some fish and have like a nice meal. Like, it's not the end of the world. It will be fine. Let's make the day better. So here's my stubborn boyfriend. Some little coral bits in his foot. It's not gonna stop him to go spearfishing a second time. That's what the plan is now. Chris is gonna go back in the water, try to get some fish. There are some fish out there, so that's why it's kind of like hopeful to bring one for dinner. And in the meantime, I'll keep the GoPro this time. It won't get it because the water is a bit murky, so there's no point anywhere to film over there. And I'll set up our little fire station for tonight. I've already built the fire ring, and we've got a new boso because we broke the other one. So I'm gonna go on the hunt for firewood very soon, and yeah, get everything ready so that when he comes back, just have to chill. Alright, I think we've got enough firewood for tonight. So this is what I got with the boso and lots of little branches. It's just to cook the fish basically, so it will be just like a very small fire. Hopefully Chris gets one, otherwise we've got some fish frozen in the freezer still, so we're not gonna starve tonight around here. Take back. So I'm just gonna take back the fish and see if it's cooked. Let's have a look. Can you see the fish? Probably not. Okay, so doesn't look cooked, but the skin looks like we can probably... Oh, actually it's not too bad. I'm just gonna put back some foil on it, and we'll put the skin facing the fire. Alright, the fish is cooked. I've removed the bones. I really like the blue bones for that because you can spot them so easily, and they're like quite big as well. So I'm just gonna dish up and we're just gonna have dinner by the fire.
Good morning. So if you didn't notice, yesterday I was in a pretty bad mood. So Ange did most of the filming over the course of the day. Just nothing was really working for me. And then to top it off, got that big piece of coral in my foot, which was just because of my own stupidity. And then basically I'd been digging in my foot, couldn't get it out. So I was actually pretty concerned that we'd have to go back to go to the doctor. If any of you have had a coral wound before, they can get really serious really fast. So last night at about 2:30 a.m, my foot woke me up because it was throbbing and hurting so much, even though I had put antiseptic on it. So I came down here with my flashlight on, started digging in my foot again, and managed to get out a bunch of coral pieces, and my foot seems to have pushed a lot of them out, and it started to get a bit infected and stuff, but it seems to be so much better today. So fingers crossed that's all fine. So today's a better day, but I've just gone to make coffee. Ange and I just got up, and check this out. So there's the back of the car there. These are ventilation panels, normally where the spare tire is. And it looks like a mouse or something has gone to town on it. So it just, yeah, chewed it all to bits. So my concern is that we now have a mouse in our pantry, but I don't know how we'll know until I find some droppings or some food eaten or something like that. Hopefully just ate that and then ran off, but I'm going to check under the engine bay now just in case it's chewed through any electrics or anything. Hopefully not, and we'll keep you updated. So we just left our little spot around the corner. We've driven to this beautiful beach. Look at that. It was all cloud cover this morning and it's just burnt off. I reckon there'll be a place for me to spear around the corner. It looks like there's some rocky outcrops in the water. Looking for that structure where the fish like. So what's gonna happen is it's all rock and really hard to get in. My foot's a bit buggered, as you know. So I think Ange, or we're gonna drive down the coast a bit towards that direction. And then Ange is going to drop me off in the water, and then she'll drive back here, and I'll end up floating on this quite strong current and coming out on the beach here, hopefully with a fish or two. Oh, I'm thinking it's going to be a better day today.
If I don't see him in a few hours,
She'll have to
drive back.
Come try and pick me up. Maybe I'll be floating the other way out to sea. Hopefully we've got these tides right.
Yeah, this way.
Cool, so we parked up. We've gone to around the corner basically to another beach. So I'm gonna go out here and then cruise along and wind up back at camp, and just gonna bring the car back. Unfortunately, the spearfishing was super average. I didn't find any decent fish to shoot. There were heaps of crayfish out there under little ledges though. Tried to grab them with my hands a few times, but just couldn't reach in far enough, or they were basically just surrounded by urchins. As you can tell, the wind's picked up again this arvo. We did a little bit of editing in the rooftop tent and just training, and I've gotten all the firewood together for tonight. So we are going to have our last coral trout. This is from the other day on the boat, and that unfortunately is the last fish in the freezer. So I'm going to give it one more crack tomorrow. I'll go out there with my crayfish pole and hopefully be able to get crayfish for tomorrow night's dinner. But yeah, unfortunately today was not so good just because the visibility was terrible. So you could only see about a foot in front of your face. So I reckon there were some big fish out there, but they probably just saw my shape and then just disappeared before I could even see them. Fingers crossed tomorrow is better.
Day number 3, beach camping number 3. So this is our spot. Park the jeep. We've got the rocks that protects us from the wind. Perfectly sheltered. Chris is building the firing for tonight. It's gonna be a great day.
So not gonna lie, pretty disappointed that I haven't found any decent eating fish the last couple of days, but we're really fortunate that there was still fish in the freezer for us. Now, there is no dinner for tonight now, unfortunately, so I'm gonna go back out there. This time I'm only gonna bring my cray loop, which is, I can't remember if I've shown you guys on the episodes, but it's basically a spring-powered loop. Now, you get behind the crayfish, ideally, open the loop up, bring it over its tail, and close it. That'll grab the crayfish and you can pull it out of the water. Now, it sounds really easy, right? But it's a lot harder than you think when you're underwater and being moved about by the waves and the swell. I also find if it's too shallow, no matter how much obviously weight I've got on my around my waist, I will end up being quite buoyant. You don't want to be negatively buoyant in shallow water anyway, that would be too dangerous, but it can make it pretty tricky for getting these little buggers. So they're always really far into a recess. You'll only really usually see their too long antenna. But when you look to see how far they are and if they're a decent size, that's usually when they'll notice you and they'll immediately start to recede back into their cave. So sometimes it can be hard even getting this in here. Now in this area, I'm noticing it super tricky because there are giant, big, spiky black sea urchins everywhere. In New Zealand, we call them kinna. Apparently they taste really good, some people say. Other people say they are disgusting. At this stage, Ange and I aren't keen to try it. If you have tried kinna or those big black sea urchins, let me know in the comments whether it's worth me grabbing them, because there are thousands of big ones out there. They have poisonous spines, and those spines are designed to snap off really easily. So the other day when I reached my arm in to try and grab one of these crayfish, a spine stabbed me in the arm. It's not a huge deal, but you don't want to get a whole heap of them breaking off in your skin. They will get infected. Just like I got that coral in my foot, it'd be a similar thing. So fingers crossed today is a more successful hunt, and hopefully I bring back 1 or 2 crayfish for dinner.
Good luck!
Well, I really wish that I got some awesome footage of me getting some crayfish, or at least brought some crayfish back for dinner. But 3rd day in the row, super unsuccessful hunt. Still really grateful that I could get out there and that my foot wasn't playing up too much in the water. But it's still very murky and there weren't as many crayfish as I saw yesterday, which is kind of sod's law, isn't it? So the ones I did see, by the time I'd gone down for my first dive, just to see where they were, like almost my exploratory breath, by the time I went down for the second to go and grab them, they had already receded, so they were quite skittish. And they'd gone up into places where I just couldn't get the cray loop. But never mind, can't win them all. That's the beauty of it, I guess. So, I mean, it is a bit tricky because I don't get to stop at one spot for very long. Like, I don't live in one area and you know the fish habits, know the water, the best times to go, where to go and stuff. So that's a little bit tricky in itself, I guess, because we're always moving. I also found it very, very cold today because I think my 3mm wetsuit is riddled with holes now. I've just torn it up looking for crayfish and stuff. So I think I need to invest in a better 5mm wetsuit, and that'll keep me warmer, and then I should be able to get more comfortable underwater holding my breath a bit longer. Sounds like I'm moaning. I'm not. I'm just a bit gutted because we've got some frozen veg and just a couple of cans of baked beans for dinner, but it is what it is. So I'm going to chop some more firewood and just training, and then we'll have dinner.
So we didn't do too much today. It was really hot, surprisingly one of the warmest days since the start of winter. So I'm gonna train now. It's nearly 4 p.m, perfect timing of the day, and then just go for a quick swim. We'll have dinner. Tomorrow we'll head back to town and carry on our next adventures. Stay tuned for next week's episode in Karajini.